There is, I think, a problem of image for Africa. Without good governance, Africa will go nowhere. We also want to encourage and support success in African leadership. And I'm an African. If I don't do it, who else will do it?
Do you have an idea of what it takes for a man born in Sudan to become one of Africa's most respected billionaires? You might mention oil, or gold, or even politics. I'm pretty sure that mobile phones and integrity never crossed your mind. This is the peculiar story of the 79-year-old Mo Ibrahim, the telecom genius who revolutionized Africa's digital space and did something barely any billionaire would do. He has spent a good chunk of his fortune fighting for good governance. In a world where power and wealth is often inherited and tied to privilege, it will surprise you to know that Mo Ibrahim carved his own legacy with none of those advantages. Born in the heart of Sudan to very modest parents, he looked like he wasn't destined for places or political offices. Instead, he was destined to solve problems with science, grit, and unshakable belief that Africa could rise through technology. When most investors avoided the continent, labeling it too unstable or too poor, Mo saw opportunity. Opportunity not in exploiting its resources, but in empowering its people. Mo Ibrahim did not stop at just bringing mobile phones to Africa. He connected families across borders, gave entrepreneurs the tools to grow, and forced the world to rethink what was possible on African soil. But perhaps his greatest act came after the billions were made. When most billionaires retired to yachts and mansions, he committed to Africa expressly. Mr. Mo built a foundation, one that rewards good leadership and tracks accountability, one that reminds African presidents that power is responsibility. It's not a selfish privilege. This story is the blueprint for impact, legacy, and integrity in a continent that desperately needs more of it. Welcome to AfriWealthWise, where we tell stories behind successful Africans, those who are building more than just wealth, and those rewriting the future of the continent. This is the Mo Ibrahim story. Mo Ibrahim was born in 1946 in Sudan. Long before the internet, smartphones, or even stable electricity were a thing in most African homes. His full name, Muhammad Fatih Ahmad Ibrahim. But over the years, the world came to know him simply as Mo. Growing up, Mo didn't have much. His father worked as a clerk. That's like everyone who handles paper in a basic office. His mother stayed home to raise the kids. They weren't poor to a point of begging, but they weren't rich either. They lived a simple life. And like many families across Africa today, they held a common belief where they hoped that their children would go further, do more, and become better than they were. From a young age, Mo asked questions, and a lot of them. He was a kid who asked questions like, how do radios work? Why do wires carry sound? Why do lights turn on when you flip the switch? In those days, most of the boys were dreaming of becoming soldiers, traders, or farmers. But Mo was so curious about machines. He just loved science and technology and wanted to understand it more. And more importantly, he had supportive parents who didn't shut it down. His father, even with a small income, saved enough to get Mo into decent schools. And that made all the difference. He did well in school, really well, especially in maths and physics. And it wasn't long before he got admitted to Alexandria University in Egypt to study electrical engineering. Now let's take a pause for a moment. Now think about this. A boy from Sudan, leaving home to study in a completely different country just to chase his love for machines. He didn't even know it at the time about his deep obsession, but this step was the beginning of a life that would impact millions. In Alexandria, Mo learned more than just engineering. He learned about independency, he learned discipline, and he learned how to think differently. While most people were trying to pass exams and land stable jobs, Mo was thinking about how systems worked and how things connected. And deep down, he was also thinking about home. Sudan, Africa. He knew there was too many problems. But maybe just maybe technology could solve some of them. After graduating in Egypt, he didn't stop there. He wanted more knowledge, so he packed his bags and moved again, and this time to the United Kingdom. He earned a master's degree in electronics and electrical engineering from the University of Bradford, and then a PhD in mobile communication from the University of Birmingham. And just in case you're wondering, yes, that means Mo Ibrahim became a doctor of mobile technology before mobile phones even became mainstream. He saw the future way before the world did. But let's be clear, none of this was handed to him. He wasn't for political dynasty. He studied hard and worked even harder. And he didn't wait for the perfect condition. He created his own lane. And while his mates back home were settling down with government jobs, Mo was out here chasing a dream that didn't even have a name yet. In the UK, he took up small jobs. He later began teaching at the University of Greenwich, sharing his knowledge with others. But he wasn't satisfied with just teaching at a point. Like other billionaires, Mo wanted to build something of substance for himself and Sudan. That's the thing about dreamers. They won't stop even when they find immediate comfort. They keep chasing impact. And so, with nothing but his knowledge, his belief in Africa, and a bit of savings, Mo would go on to build something that had never been done before. He would launch a company that dared to do what no one else believed in, bring mobile phones to everyday Africans. Not the rich or the powerful, but the average and the lower income class who could only dream of it. But how does all this relate to him being a billionaire, especially with no wealthy upbringing or trust funds to back him up? Let's rewind to the 1990s. Africa was changing, but slowly. Many countries were gaining independence or transitioning from military rule to democracy. But one thing was still painfully obvious. Communication was a big problem. If you were in Ghana and wanted to call someone in Kenya, it wasn't simple. In fact, sometimes it wasn't even possible. It's either no signal, no connection, or infrastructure aren't just there. Only the rich and powerful had access to international calls. And for the average African, making a phone call across borders was like sending a message through a bird. That was where Mo Ibrahim saw an opportunity others didn't. While big telecom companies from Europe and America ignored Africa, Mo looked at the continent and said, "This is the future." Now, at the time, he was working in a company called BT Cellnet in the UK. A British telecom division, he was a big brain behind their mobile networks. But still, something wasn't sitting right with him. He had a PhD in mobile communication, and he actually knew how to build networks. He also knew that Africans was being left behind. That wasn't even because it lacked talent, but because no one was willing to take the risk. So in 1998, Mo Ibrahim did something bold. He quit his comfortable job, took his savings, and started his own company called Celtel. Now remember, this was not just bold, it was extremely scary. Because back then, most investors didn't believe in Africa. They thought the continent was too poor, too corrupt, and too unstable to run a mobile network business. In fact, over 90% of the investors Mo approached slammed the door to his face. They all said, no. Some even laughed at him. And they kept asking, why would poor people in Africa need mobile phones? They don't even have roads. But Mo has seen something deeper. He wasn't just building for today. He was building for what Africa would become. So he kept pushing. And finally, though slowly, a few smart investors came on board. Guess where Celtel was launched? If you said Sudan, then you're far from correct. If you said Egypt, you're still wrong. Celtel was launched in Uganda first. And honestly, it was far from easy. There were technical problems, licensing issues, political dramas, you name it. But the people loved it. Suddenly, a teacher in Kampala could call his cousin in Nairobi. A market woman could call her supplier in Lagos. It was revolutionary. People don't have to travel for days just to deliver a message. Celtel was changing lives. And the best part? Mo wasn't even focused on making quick money. He reinvented profits into better networks. He paid his taxes in full. He followed every regulation, even when others tried to cut corners. He believes that African businesses should lead by example, and in return, his business grew very fast. By the early 2000s, Celtel had expanded to more than 14 African countries, including Kenya, Uganda, Chad, Malawi, Sierra Leone, and more. It was serving over 24 million people. And not just in big cities, even rural areas were getting connected. And guess what? Mo made sure Celtel provided high quality service and affordable rates. Now, here's the billionaire part. In 2005, just 7 years after he started Celtel, Mo sold the company for a whopping $3.4 billion. Yes, billion. He became one of the richest Africans in history by simply building something valuable, honest, and deeply needed. And still, he stayed grounded. He wasn't all over tabloids. He didn't rush to buy yachts or private islands. Instead, Mo asked himself a deeper question. If I can connect millions of people with phones, I can also connect Africa to better leadership. But hold that thought. We'll come back to it in a bit. What you need to know is this. Mo Ibrahim didn't become a billionaire by luck. He saw a need, and he had believed strong in Africa when others didn't. And he built something from scratch. Not because it was easy, but because it was necessary. And in doing so, he proved that Africans don't have to wait for outsiders to bring solutions. We can build our own. We can solve our problems. We can create billion-dollar empires and still hold onto integrity. Mo Ibrahim Celtel was now more than a company. It was a message that Africa is not a charity case. They have the potential, and it's a land of business and opportunity. And he was right. Today, Africa has over 600 million mobile users. And it all started with a Sudanese engineer, a dream, and a whole lot of faith. Now, what did he do with the $3.4 billion? Let's be honest here. After selling a company for over $3 billion, most people would have just vanished into luxury. Think about it. Private jets, champagne in Paris, a mansion in Dubai, or maybe a football club in Europe. But that's not what Mo Ibrahim did. Instead, he asked himself something very few billionaires ever ask. What is the point of all this money if my continent is still suffering? Because the truth is, bad leadership and not just poverty has caused the most of Africans' pain. Corruption, greed, and staying too long in power have slowed down progress in many countries. So Mo decided to fight with truth, transparency, and reward. He created the Mo Ibrahim Foundation. The mission was quite simple too. He wanted to support good governance and great leadership in Africa. Now, let me blow your mind. Did you know that Mo even created a special prize? It's called the Ibrahim Prize for Achievement in African Leadership. This prize gives $5 million to an African president who leads well while in power, leaves office when their term ends, and sets an example for others to follow. Now, you might think $5 million is a lot. Yes, it is. But that's the whole point. Mo believed that doing the right thing in Africa should be rewarded, just like it is in business. Sadly, in some years, no one won the prize. Why? Because no leadership met the standard. And that tells you something powerful. Mo's prize is not a joke. It's not a gift. A reminder that power is not for abusing people, but to serve and empower them. Truthfully, Mo Ibrahim's kind is rare. Our challenge to you at AfriWealthWise. Now, many of you here still harbor that mindset that billionaires come from money. But here's Mo's story. To turn that idea into a myth that should be thrown away. Dear viewers, what are you doing with what you have? Because let's be real, Mo didn't start with millions. He didn't even have powerful connections or expensive gadgets. He started with questions, curiosity, a deep hunger to learn, a heart that believes Africa deserves better. So what's your excuse? You may not have a PhD today, and that's okay. You may not even be sure of what your passion is yet. Also okay. But can you answer questions? Can you learn something new about your craft every day? Can you stay true to your value even when it's not popular? Mo didn't build his legacy by copying what everyone else was doing. He looked around, saw a problem and said, I can fix that. And then he actually did. So maybe you're not building the next Celtel today, but can you build a small brand with honesty? Can you run your business with integrity? Can you show up even when no one is clapping for you yet? This continent doesn't need any more billionaires. It needs more people who care, people who create solutions, lead with their hearts, and stay humble even when they succeed. You should be that person. In fact, you should be. Because if Mo Ibrahim's story teaches us anything, it's this. The future of Africa will not be saved by handouts. It will be built by bold thinkers, honest builders, and people who dare to believe in something bigger than themselves. So, what will your legacy be?